I am in Peru meeting Will from Denver, Colorado, United States. And you work with a method called Demartini Method.
I do.
Tell me about that. I want to know everything.
Okay. Well, the Demartini Method, from what I know of it, and I'm going to give you my lens. John may describe it differently, and John Demartini is the founder of the method. He has been actually engaged with it and working with it for the past like 39 years. He has studied over 240 ologies at the grad level, and then about another 18 ologies, and I mean ologies like sociology, biology, psychology, at the PhD level. And so he's what is known as a polymath, and a polymath is a person who has multiple ologies under their belt, but he is a super polymath. I would equate him with a modern-day Socrates or Plato with the knowledge that he knows. And so it's many things, and I'll try to sum it up in a way that makes sense, because I could talk about this for hours. The primary method that he does to help people go through transformation is called the quantum collapse. And the quantum collapse is based in, I describe it in two ways. One of them is called perceptual balancing. And with perceptual balancing, you're looking at the other side of a perception. And our world is created of perception. So there's nothing that we cannot perceive. So when we perceive anything in the world, we take in all the information from our senses, from our smell, taste, touch, our kinesthetic sense, our sense of feeling, and we take that in, and the mind encodes it, and it processes it, and we sum it up in a particular way. In regards with perception, when we perceive anything, we can only, the brain has to have a way to categorize and organize what we're seeing. So we literally will see something as, we'll take it in as either it was a good event or a bad event. And that can be from a mildly good event to a mildly bad event to an extremely bad event to an extremely good event.
And that goes really fast, right? The brain just sorts it out.
Brain encodes it really quickly. It's also taking information from the past and filtering it through that to see, do I know this? Is this common? There's also another major part of the brain mechanism, and it's called with the reptilian brain. It works in the process of keeping us alive, and so it's scanning the environment for danger, and so we literally are negatively skewed when we perceive anything. So when we perceive in our environment, the first protocol is to keep ourselves safe, and so we will have more of a negative skew on life than we will a positive skew, simply because we're trying to stay alive for ourselves and for our species. It's what keeps us evolving. So let me go back. So you perceive something, it's good or bad. When you encode it in that way, when the information comes in that way, what happens is we systematically cut out. I use the metaphor for half. It's not really half. I don't even know what the percentage is, but we cut out a large portion that we filter it out.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we couldn't take in all the information. We just wouldn't know what to do with it. It wouldn't make any sense, and we might even go crazy if we had. I think scientists say that it's about 2 billion bits of information are coming at us every second. And the numbers are from 2,000 to 150,000 bits we encode. So that gives you an idea of sort of the information coming in at us and what we can actually grab a hold of.
But if we also already decide very fast what it is that we see, then we miss out on the rest, right? Yeah,
you're missing out. Yeah, you're missing out on first encoding. You're carving out a piece that is meaningful to you. So we will we will encode information from our highest values. We are looking, one, to stay safe in our environment. We are also looking for what we love. We're trying to receive in what we love. And so each one of us has this fingerprint, highest values to lowest values filtering system that we're actually engaged with. So we actually have cells in the brain that are looking for things that we love. And they're called glial cells. And so it's part of their design, is to pick out the things that we love. And so we will filter out information or filter in and out information based on what we love. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you got a lot of things going on. We perceive something, it's positive or negative, it supports our highest values, we go towards it. It does not support our highest values, we go away from it. I mean, haven't we all done that? If someone calls you, excuse my language, someone calls you an asshole, you're going to go away from them. You're going to say, that person's mean, I don't like them, I want to go away from them. If someone supports your highest values and says, oh my God, you're such an amazing spiritual person, you've moved me, you're going to really draw to them. You will literally open up to them and engage with them more because they're supporting your highest values, if spirituality is your highest value. So I hope I'm
with you.
I'm not like going bombarding all over the place. So I want to really hit the metaphor of when we perceive something, we're cutting out the other side. So if someone comes and calls me a jerk, let's say, and I go away from them and I reject them and I push away, I have summed that situation up in a particular way. And I'll tell a story about it. Can you believe that? This person called me a jerk. And they said this and this, and then they walked away. And you might actually carry that with you, that negative charge with you all day long. Now, there's several things going on. You're not present when you're doing that. You know, you're thinking about it. You're engaged with it. But you're only experiencing half of the event. And so with the Demartini method, what he likes to do is he likes to get at the other side. Where is the other piece of information? It's been likened to a hide and go seek with God. Like where is God in the perception that we're not seeing? Like where's the other side? So he likes to ask the question, what are the benefits to you that this person called you a jerk in that moment, in that particular way? So what I would have a client do is I would say, I need you to go back to that memory and I need you to get very specific with it. So they go back in the memory and I was standing up and the person came across and I bumped into them and they turned around and they said, you're such a jerk, watch out what you're doing, watch out where you're going. And I said, awesome. So now that you have the memory, what are the benefits to you that that person actually called you a jerk? And most people will say, what are you talking about? There are no benefits. This guy called me a jerk. Right? Yeah. And it's a very common response I hear from a lot of my clients. And I say, well, this is where the balance comes into play. And so hold that story because I have to describe another piece of it. John talks about the universe being created in polarities, and science has proven this. There was an experiment done in, I think, 1984, where they split a proton in its positive and negative charges. And they were able to take one charge and keep it into a room, and they were able to take another charge and they took it down the hallway. When they messed with one of the poles, one of the charges, the other charge moved at the exact same time. I mean, at the exact same time, even to the level that we can measure, the finest level we can measure, it moved at the exact same time. It moved in the inverse way, the opposite way, and it stopped the moment they stopped messing with it. So what does that prove to us? Well, two things. It proves non-local reality. It proves that things affect us that we're connected to from in the same room, same city, across the world, across the universe. We can be affected by energies. Because the poles were in two separate rooms. And they were still directly connected to one another. So they thought they had split it, but they had only just moved it far away from each other. But it's called spooky action at a distance.
Okay.
Right? Because have you ever had Ever had the event take place where you think about someone and then they call?
Absolutely.
And you're like, oh my God, I was just thinking about you and it called. Well, in that very same moment of you thinking about them, they were thinking about you. And that same action is going on, that same spooky action at a distance is going on. So, and the second thing is that proves that when they were messing with one side and it moved at the same time in the inverse fashion and stopped at the moment that they stopped messing with it, it proves that life from an atomic level is balanced. Because when two polarities collide, they come together, they are in perfect opposition with one another, and that creates a balance. So the universe, everything that creates atoms, is balanced because atoms are made of polarities. So everything in the universe has perfect balance going on. And the more profound thing, and if you can think about it this way, and this is sort of a profound statement if you really sort of step back and think about it, in every possible way that you can conceive of balance, this universe is balanced. Your life has been balanced. And so to make the statement that your life, exactly as it has been lived, has been in this perfect balance. You just haven't perceived it that way. Because our perception is cutting out, metaphorically, half of the equation.
So yeah, because it can't happen any other way than in balance, but maybe you're not aware of it.
Yeah, we like that event. So going back to the jerk, what are you talking about? There's no benefits to that. And what I'm saying is, if the universe, with universal laws, if the universe is in this perfect balance, well then, in that moment of that person calling you a jerk, there is an equal and opposite amount of benefit of that person being your teacher in that moment that you perceive to be negative. So let me say that again. To the level that you perceive that event negative is to the level that actually there's positive to it. So what we do is we want to get at that other side because we want you to learn from the event as it occurred because it's already balanced. So every event in your life, and I mean every event, I don't care how horrific that event is, to the level it's perceived negative is to the level that it has benefit. And this is a universal law. It cannot be changed.
But so just to see it the way it occurs and not what I make it mean. Is that the difference?
Yeah. So we're story makers, aren't we?
Absolutely.
So we create stories. And so the one way I would call this work is we just give you more information to bring you back to 0 point. So if I have a negative event and that event is, let's say this is perceived negative and I'm perceiving an event like this is horrible, I don't like it. If I add benefits to this side, like a weight scale, I keep adding benefits. I keep systematically adding benefits. Well, I keep adding weight to the side, like a weight scale, it's going to neutralize. So from a Buddhist standpoint, we're looking for middle ground. We're looking for 0 point. Have you heard of 0 point?
Yeah.
So in 0 point, when you reach that point, 3 things happen. When you reach true 0 point with any situation or any perception, you have love, gratitude, and inspiration. You have love, gratitude, and inspiration because you've balanced the perception. You have systematically taken someone through their own learning. Because I'm asking the client, what's the benefit to you that the person called you a jerk? And they might say, well, I stood up for myself. I didn't allow them to like push me around. I was like, what are you talking about? What's your problem? Right? And so in that moment, I stood up for myself. They might say, I want to use an example personal to my life because that's going to be more poignant. Is that okay if I go off the jerk example and use an example from my life?
That's good.
My father, I perceived my father to abandon me at the age of 5. And at the age of 5, my dad walked out and my mom and dad divorced. My story as a 5-year-old was, my dad abandoned me. He left. I don't understand why. I'm confused. What did I do? This is my fault. And my mom kept telling me, sweetie, it's not your fault. It's just not your fault. And she was trying to explain to me at 5 years old that, you know, it's way beyond your control and this has nothing to do with you. And I still, as a 5-year-old, tenaciously held on to that story for a very, very long time. In my teens, the story flipped and I got angry at my father. And I said, what a jerk. How could you do that? How could you just walk out? So that became my story for a long time, and I became very angry at my father. When I did the work with John, this was one of the traits of the quantum collapse that I worked on. And what I found out from my dad's abandoning me was that I would have never have met my stepfather. And my stepfather was a balancing act of a man from my father. He was soft, feminine, he was European, he was Austrian, he was cultured. So he introduced me to culture and arts and a particular way of eating and fine music, and he helped me to see my creative side and pulled it out. I mean, he really was an amazing man, he really truly was. And as I found out, so was my dad. Because my dad was the masculine, challenging aspect that caused me to stand up for myself and not put up with anyone's crap and find my own way in life and really find out what was important to me, because in my dad abandoning me, I had to figure it out. I had to figure out my own life. And I had to figure out what I wanted to do and what my spirituality was. So had my dad not abandoned me, I would have never met my stepfather. I would have never experienced all that culture. I can tell you with absolute certainty, I fundamentally would be a very different person, and we would not be having this conversation. All my father's friends, artists, musicians, people who are impassioned with their work. He seemed to gravitate people who loved their work. I was surrounded by that in my life. And one of my main purposes in life is to help people find their passion, is to help people find their purpose and their mission. And I actually can do it very effectively. John has a amazing system around that. So he helped me. My stepfather helped me discover in myself my purpose in life, and I didn't even realize it. So I knew a woman named Lolitha. She was like a mom to me. She was our housekeeper, but she basically raised me, you know, and I would have never have known her. So you can understand fundamentally, if my father hadn't abandoned me, my life would have taken a very different trajectory. And that was the fantasy in my mind, was only if my father didn't abandon me, life would have been better. But the actuality is, it wouldn't have been better. I would be fundamentally different. And I probably wouldn't have approached spirituality, and I probably wouldn't have met all of these amazing beings that added many multiple facets to my life. So that's looking at the other side of abandonment. And so there's profound learning to the level that the charge is negative. When you look at the other side of it, is to the level that that charge is going to be positive. And to the level of profound learning that happens again and again and again. And it is in that profound learning that things start to balance. Oh my God, my father, I would have never met my stepdad. I would have never met Lolitha. I would have never have found my purpose. I would have never have made a lot of these connections in my life, nor to the depth that I have. I'm glad my father abandoned me. And he didn't abandon me. He left. He was doing his life. And he was living in his highest values. And I can't fault people for that. Right. You know, if I can know, I'm sorry.
Thank you for sharing your story, because I think a lot of people can take that to their own life and start to see the positive things around what has happened to them just by you sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's quite profound to experience. I've never experienced someone. I've never had someone teach me the questions to ask. And John always says this: the quality of questions you ask determine the quality of life you have. And so if you can ask the right questions, you can unlock, again, it's like kind of playing hide and go seek with God as yourself, discovering your life. If you can't ask the right questions, you can't get to it. You can't discover yourself because you're not asking the right questions.
And what can one of those questions be?
One of them, very simply, is what is the benefit that man called you a jerk? What is the benefit that your mom left you? What is the benefit that you were abused? What is it? And to literally turn that 180 degrees and go right into the shadow.
And if people want to find out more about this method, they can find you, or they can find John?
They can. My website is willetheridge.com. Has all my contact information. I do work with clients. I will talk to them about what's going on. I would talk to them about fee schedules and all that stuff, but I do it through Skype. You can find more information on drdemartini.com. Yeah, so you can contact me. Again, my Skype name is Will Etheridge, WILLETHERIDGE, and with Skype you ask me to, you invite me to be on your Skype, and then I'll contact them, and that's how I'll do it if it's long distance. Yeah, and I don't know if you've noticed, but I love this work.
I can tell. Yes.
And I have never found a more effective way to have people transform their lives as they are. So many of us go seeking for the outside experience, right? And that's okay because the world offers that. But I am more interested in who are you? And what are your passions? If you take the static enough out of your life, and what I mean the static, the story, this one-sided story, if you start to balance it and level it and start to come to know yourself and start to come to know the other-sidedness of yourself, the next question is going to be is who am I and what do I want to do in this world? And that's where we move into really finding your fingerprint-specific purpose. And what I mean by that is I will ask you 12 to 13 questions that get at what you do naturally every single day, that what you love. And remember I talked about the glial cells and how the glial cells perceive in our environment what we love? Well, we want to get at those loves and we want to cluster them together so you can see them on a page. So the process is I ask 13 questions, and they're gonna get at what do you organize most towards? What do you think about most? What do you talk about most? What do you surround yourself most with in your environment, your favorite environment? What do you love to envision? What inspires you the most? I can tell more about this, but the value system is equally important to the perceptual because it gets at your fingerprint-specific purpose. And we get your mind working on your highest values. So we would go from highest to lowest, and we would start having your highest to the highest value, the second value, start talking to each other by asking the question, how do these two link? How do they support each other? What's their relationship? And then you do that for all your values. So you would get your brain really working on your love list in a multidimensional way. And eventually you do that enough, a career emerges. Because your mind starts to think and think and think, how does this fit into a career? How does this fit into a career? I want to do this. I want to do this because it's specific to me. So that's a whole nother talk.
Yeah, I guess we could talk forever. It's very interesting. And also what I hear is that it's really getting the power from yourself to create your life.
Yeah. I study a path which believes that God exists within us, as us, for us. And I never really fully understood that until now. And to systematically really see your life and engage with your life in this way is the most inspired thing that I can do because it's my life. And I'm discovering a whole nother side of it. And I mean that you discover an entire another person. So anyways, we have to stop talking. But yeah, it's pretty incredible. It's the most incredible work I've come across so far.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Absolutely. And thank you for allowing me to be interviewed. It was really great to share this. I love talking about this. I mean, as you can see. Thanks.